Hello and welcome to Connect the World. I'm Lynda Kinkade in Atlanta, filling in for Becky Anderson. We begin with an emotional day for students returning to a high school in Florida 2 weeks after a gunman killed 17 people, their classmates and teachers. As teenagers arrive on campus, they were met with flowers and calls of welcome back. The attack has sparked an emotional debate on gun control in the US, and some of the country's biggest companies are taking note. A nationwide retailer, Dick's Sporting Goods, has just announced that it will stop selling assault-style weapons. The chief executive spoke with CNN's New Day about that decision.
If these kids are brave enough to organize and do what they're doing, then we should be brave enough to take this stand, and that's what we've done. We actually sold the shooter a shotgun in November of last year. And we looked at that and found out that we did this. We had a pit in our stomach and said, we don't want to be a part of this story, and we need a responsibility to these kids, and we decided we are not going to sell these any longer.
Well, CNN's Dianne Gallagher joins me now from Parkland, Florida. And Dianne, it's really hard to imagine just how tough it is for the students going back into this place where they've witnessed such carnage. There's also a lot of frustration as well that politicians are not listening to them.
You know, Lynda, there is. It's this strange balance they're having to strike today as they came back in. They started the day with 17 seconds of silence, 1 second for each of their classmates and teachers who were killed 2 weeks ago today. But as they walked in, there were tears. They walked in arm with officers and teachers and parents of those who were killed. They still kept that vigor that they've had inside of them about trying to make change. They were still talking about gun control. Take a listen to what David Hogg told us this morning on CNN.
How are you getting the strength to go in there today?
I have to, because our politicians are cowards and they won't. They won't gather the strength even to stand up to the NRA like Marco Rubio, Rick Scott, or Donald Trump, where they won't stand up to the NRA and say, you don't own me anymore, and they rip off their shot collar. At this point, our politicians are like really stupid sharks that think that they have power, but honestly don't.
You know, a lot of these kids, Lynda, have unfortunately been thrust into this. They feel like they have to continue this movement. I got a text not too long ago from a sophomore who's inside, and he told me, it's really weird being in here. I think it's hitting us hard because we have all been so involved with the movement, and now we just have to be students. And I think that really sort of hits home as to just what they've been dealing with the past 2 weeks. They've been on TV everywhere. They've been making change and getting the attention of politicians and the president. But in the end, there's still high school students who have to go back to a class where, you know, they lost their classmates, where a massacre happened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely horrific. And they are continuing to fight the politicians for change. But despite the lack of political will, we are seeing companies step back from the NRA. Some have cut ties with the NRA. And we just heard today, Dick Smith Sporting Goods said we're no longer going to sell rifles to teenagers. And this is a company that sold one of the guns to the shooter, not one used in the massacre, but did sell a gun. And just explain for us how students are reacting to that.
So I have the best way to explain this to you, Lynda. This morning, before school started, when that Dick's announcement came out, Fred Guttenberg, whose daughter Jamie was killed in that massacre, was standing over to the left of me, and David Hogg, the student you just heard from, was here as well. And he saw it, and he said, oh my God, Fred Guttenberg, he goes, David, Dick's is going to stop selling assault-style weapons. And to see them together, David was so excited and said, but we're not done. We need more. We have to press on. But this is a good place to be right now. They acknowledged it. They had this happiness together, Lynda, and then they looked forward. And that's what we're seeing from a lot of these students. Each time a company does something, they celebrate it, and then they move on to the next, and they plan to. There are several other movements and clubs that these kids at this school have tried to start so they can empower other students around the country to understand the voice that they have, that maybe they can't vote, but they can still have political influence, and they can still lobby their politicians to pay attention to what they want, because they will be voters soon. So watching their activism, some of them have admitted that at least for the next couple of days they would like to focus on their classmates and going back to school. But for the most part, they say, hey, we're not going anywhere. We're going to stay strong, we're going to stay loud, and we're going to press on.
And we will continue to cover what they have to say. Dianne Gallagher, great to have you there for us today. Thanks so much.